I want to fill my brain and enrich my brain with things that I'm going to use.
Mm.
And whether it be a good book, and right now I'm doing a lot of excessive reading, with my human resource. Um, so to me, I want to fill my brains with things that are good, not with the negative, if that makes sense.
Welcome to the Business Coffee Hour with William Gray Jr. I am your host, and today I'm very honored to have our guest in studio, Miss Norma. Hi, how are you
Hi,
today?
I'm doing wonderful.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate and thank you for coming in and spending some time with us. Right before the show, we were kind of getting into a little bit about her bio, so I make sure to share that into the episode notes and share it with you before before we have all this run down. But I'm very curious, what was your big driving force within your businesses? Like, um, I know you've mentioned you had a couple of them. What values do you make sure that you hold? That how do you bring that into your business?
As far as value, everybody's is going to be different. Okay. Mine was people. Mine at the beginning of my businesses was to take care of family, take care of my children, and raise my own children. So for that purpose, I did daycare centers for 20 years.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I do love that you said you started with just wanting to make sure of taking care of your own kids.
Absolutely.
And it comes across. I know when I first met you and I came into what you do now at Miss Norma's
Mhm.
Cafe, I felt like um, this is a member of my own family.
Yes, and that is a key point right there. Is I wanted people at my little cafe to feel like this is a part of their home, and maybe my food would bring back a memory, a good memory of when they ate together. Because people don't do that very often anymore. But I see a lot of families come into the daycare. I'm sorry, not the daycare, to the cafe as family, and they enjoy food and they enjoy the company, and I enjoy popping in and being a part of the family to where they become my family.
Hmm.
And that to me is really important. Even if you meet one person, you know, let's
Yeah,
see.
I think it does. It carries across when you. So we're talking about Miss Norma's Cafe here in Pearland, and when I would hear about it, you've been open now for almost 2 years.
We start August. I started our second year.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's quite amazing. And so when I first heard it was like, yes, you got to try this spot here in Pearland. You got to go to Miss Norma's, and then my business partner Raul often mentioned it. Like, man, I was just there. I love eating there. Let's go eat there. I swear, for a week we went there almost every single day
Yes.
because it's the variety and it's you mentioned it. It's the feeling of home. I feel like we're going to a relative's house to have a good meal, and you always come by and visit, and that's probably the best parts is when you come by and you're able to sit
And
down
it's
and visit.
exactly what I valued about my restaurant is because it's bringing value to you, even if it's 5 minutes having a cup of coffee with Raul,
Yeah.
or having a taco or something and having a time to discuss whatever you need to discuss, and just think.
So do you think this came across in all of your other business ventures as well?
I think it did because when I had daycare centers, I will tell you that no one in the daycare business would bathe the babies and make sure they were nice and clean when mommy came to pick them up at 5. My thing, all I could think about was, oh, these mommies are exhausted. I want them to spend time with their baby. And going home with a dirty baby wasn't going to work for me. So we used to bathe all the babies and clean up all their faces and change their clothes and have them ready. So when mom came to pick them up, they were like, "Oh, you look so cute," and that would make their day. And I wanted them to have at least that little piece. So,
Part of my own journey too, I have my two older kids. I had custody of them for a while as a
mhm.
single father, and they were in a daycare, and I can appreciate being able to come home or pick up clean and kids, and I
Yeah,
think that's part of your own values, like going the extra step, making sure, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. How do I make sure they are getting value from what I'm offering?
and make it a little better for you in your world.
Mm. Absolutely. And so we were talking right before you came on too about how how do you make sure that your staff understands these values as well?
I think because I say it over and over, the most important thing is make sure that everything's fresh, make sure that everything is cooked, all the way through and all this stuff. But it's also a lot of it has to do with training and letting them know exactly. It's like I told them, this is something that my name rides on. I said, but also your names, because you guys, they help me. They plate it, and I do 99% of the cooking. And they have to know and have to have the responsibility also and have the same feeling that I have. So I have to, I am happy to say that the cooks that I have, they think just like me. And when I give a recipe and they copy it, I tell them they know not to add anything or tweak it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really good at following that.
Right.
So I think that it carries over because you've got to train them and you've got to let them know, but you also have to let them know that they're valuable to you.
Mm.
They're a part of the business, and you have to let your employees know that they're valued in whatever they do, whether it's the busser or the dishwasher. Value that person, and that's very important to me.
Right. One of the things that I heard you say, um, feeling valued. Oh man, we just had it. It's also the uh, letting them take ownership of
You
this,
got it.
right?
Hmm.
So, and it's very difficult.
It's very hard.
It's
It's
very
very hard for me,
difficult.
control freak here. No, I try not to be, because I do have to let go. But there are rules. You can't tweak it. You can't tweak my food.
Hmm.
So, and they don't. That's if I start something. Sometimes I have this habit of starting 3 things at one time, and I go, okay, well, watch that. And then I go and taste the food and everything. So that's really important. That they understand that, because it's just like any business, you want it done a certain way. And there should not be any slack on that, especially when it comes to feeding people, taking care of people, and giving them the best customer service that they can find in town. I want them to come back, and I want them to enjoy seeing me and seeing, my stuff. So
Hmm.
that's important to me.
Well, it's coming across. You're succeeding. I can tell you that. I know I feel it. There's only one person. Well, Raul, two persons' points of view. So congratulations on that. I think it's
Thank
amazing. I think
you.
it's really coming through. But I do want to dig in more to the to giving them that responsibility to have them take ownership. I think there's a lot to that, because even folks who aren't entrepreneur, right, who
Mhm.
don't want to own the business, I think there's a lot of value in being able to take something that's somebody else's and own that and come across of it. Uh, so, do you have any additional tips on how we can do that? How we can empower our
You
employees?
can empower your employees also for making time for them.
Mhm.
To me, we go out to eat. We pick a restaurant, and a restaurant of their choice, and I treat them. And there we're laughing, we have icebreakers, and we're just talking about their families, and I'm listening to what they go through and stuff like that. And some people say, well, that's getting too personal. I don't think so, because they become your family when they work with you all the time. And you don't have to make it like a lengthy, whatever, as far as drama or anything like that, but just sometimes giving them someone to listen to and letting them know that you do value them, and we're going to go out to eat today, or we're going to go to just anywhere. Just, it doesn't have to be anything really, really, expensive or anything like that. We went to Shakira's. They had never been there. So I
Mhm.
said, let's go. So we went and we did the whole thing. They had, I was just living it through their eyes when I would see them, when the food was being prepared in front of us. They had never seen that. So now the other day they said, "Oh, we're going to go back. I'm taking my kids, or I'm taking
Oh,
whatever," and
cool.
that's what's important. So anyway,
Right. It feels like I released an episode that was about work and life and how there's no more separation. We all
mhm,
think that we can keep our work at work and our home life at home, but we can't. We're the same person
it's a
everywhere we
person, it's a
go.
human.
So if I'm able to make my work life feel more like home, I'm less likely to take those issues home.
Exactly.
So that's what I kind of hear you
Hmm. Hmm.
mirroring a little bit, like making sure treating it's not the values that you have are not just treating the customers or the folks that come in the door like
Hmm.
family. It has to start with the people you work with every
You
day.
got it, because they are the face of you. If you think about it, when they see them, and if I'm busy doing something else, I want the first person that they see to be a happy person, to be someone that is going to give them good customer service and say, hi, good morning, and respond to them and have some kind of rapport with them. I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. I love that. One of the other things that I know you're very passionate about is serving this
I
community.
do. I literally fell in love with Pearland, Texas. Seriously, I did. And so my first adventure, was going right away, getting sitting on boards, but I actually went around trying to be trying to just volunteer and see what it's all about before I sat on boards.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you passionate about right now? What boards do you sit on?
Pearland Neighborhood Centers, the Adult Reading Center. Those are two that I'm passionate about. I am also a Rotarian. That is something that I'm very passionate about. And I'm also a Lions, and for the ladies Lions. So I also am a part of them. So all of those and every single one of them are people that give back to the community. And that's what I want to be involved with.
I love that. I was just at a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the veteran Rotarians. So they have their own groups. It's like-minded people, but it's always about serving others.
But you know that I'm an assistant governor for the Rotary Club, and they're
Wow.
actually going to be one of my clubs that I start visiting in July.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me know when you go, because
Yeah,
I
very good.
they meet at Bighorn. So if you're
Yes, they do.
interested,
They do. It's
they
right
meet
by
at
my
Bighorn.
house.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? How do you find the time to do all of the things that you like to do?
Prioritizing. Family's really important, but it's just my husband and I. We don't have any littles except my fur babies.
Hmm.
But you just basically got to, you have to make sure and put everybody down on a calendar. And I don't just use my phone. I also have one that's very visual. I like books and stuff, and I like to touch them. This iPad and stuff, it's okay, but not for my calendars and stuff.
Yeah.
So I literally have to write it in. And then I know that I have meetings on this day and that I'm going to meet on this thing. But another one that I'm very passionate about is a veterans walk.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Right here in
I
Pearland.
sit with them, yes. And we're getting them ready one more time.
One more time.
Yeah.
Well, you've got some supporters here. If you need anything on that, I'm putting it out there, put it on air. Make sure Raul holds up his end. Well, if you need something, just let us know.
Yeah, I'm put you to work.
I know, I feel it. I get my walking shoes on. Uh, what what's been one like big lesson you've learned when it comes to serving others in the community as well as in business?
When there's, let me see, how do I say this? Everybody's different and everybody has an opinion. But to me, it's not so much the opinion, it's how much effort you put into your actions. Put action to your words.
Mm,
I mean, don't just tell me you're going to do it and not do it. Sometimes it's harder, and life does happen. It does happen, but it still, to me, is a lot of it is prioritizing yourself.
right. I heard an interesting fact that it wasn't until the last century where we made priorities. Priority is a singular word.
Boy,
It is a one thing. We have
uh-huh.
one priority. We do not have multiple.
Not anymore.
And we're not also we're not great multitaskers
Multitaskers.
because we can't multi-focus. We can only do one thing at a time. And I've used it on previous episodes. This is called the acronym FOCUS. So follow one course until success. Like if you just follow this one thing, if you just talk about this one thing, it will come about.
That's right.
And so it's trying to eliminate some of that clutter. We did mention books.
I
Do you
love
have any
books.
like one or two that you love to recommend that you always turn back to?
Well, believe it or not, the books I read are so random, but the one that I'm reading right now is the Pillars book, the book about pillars, and it's actually how they built a church from a long time ago.
Wow.
I know I can't even remember it off the top of my head because I'm on the last chapter, but because I'm looking at your books, and yours are, a lot of them are to feed you,
Mhm.
wisdom, maybe different. I was looking because they're all different.
Yes.
Atomic Habits and stuff like that. So my books, some of them are for leadership, and some of them are for to better myself in certain things as far as business concerned. I am reading a business book. Do not ask me who the author is because she's really cute. And I actually won that book in one of the clubs that I'm in. And I said, okay. I said, let me read it. And I'm
Right.
halfway through. And there's some stuff in there that Mr. Ramsey, very popular man. And he's apparently has fed her all this stuff, which is
Oh, okay.
amazing stuff. So yeah, you
Is
never
it
know what I'm going
Christy
to
Wright?
read. It's Christy.
Christy
Yes,
Wright,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
with
That
Business
one.
Boutique,
Yes,
I
yes,
believe.
yes. There you go. That one. I'm almost done with it.
Really?
Yes.
I've actually, it was one of those books I picked up and started reading because my wife has a small business.
Yes.
And we try to work it together. I'm trying to figure out and I've got 3 girls. So and I've mentioned this, I'm very passionate about wanting to make sure that we empower women
That's right.
to be that leaders because go back to your babysitting business. One of your huge passions was trying to be there for your kids.
That's right. Very important to me.
And it's so it's underrated, right? It's so underrated about what our mothers and spouses do in their lives, especially when it comes to raising kids.
Yes, but you have to remember, we are the ones that start with them. And I always say to myself, I started with this little guy and this little girl, and I have to finish. And the way that you do that is for you to encourage them to become good people. And that, I used to say, oh, I said, I just want to raise my kids to be good people.
Mm.
I said, and have a big heart and serve the community. That was, and you know what? My kids are really good at that. I have to say, both of them are. And I'm going like, but we're the ones that started them, and we need to be there for them, and we need to encourage them and build them up, because don't expect somebody else to do it.
Right. So how do we do that? How do we make sure they become
You
good
make
people?
time, and it's called quality time. Not just, hi, here, and here's a book I bought you, and then walk off. Sit down, read the book with them. Even with my great grandchildren, we make time, to read, and I always buy them books, and to read to them the book. And their parents are doing the same thing, and that's really important. It's quality time.
You have any books that stand out to you when it comes to reading to your kids?
Well, right now we're doing Easter books, and some of them are going to be about God and how Easter came about. But that's also, they're little guys. We have a 3-year-old and we have a 2-year-old and an itty bitty 3-month-old great grandchildren. But a lot of them are the Easter bunny right now, and it's all about the bunny at the moment.
Well, I'll share with you one of mine. It's called the Rainbow Crow. It's a great book, and it has a leadership theme to it. Shocker. And so the story goes that the crow starts out as a rainbow. It's colorful, and it's based off an Indian tale. So the crow, or all of the animals, there's this great fire. All of the animals are getting burned, and somebody has to go tell God that, or to bring back and save them. And so nobody could make it to them. So the crow volunteers to go, and it was a beautiful bird. It used to sing, and I believe it gets the wind or it gets the rain. And when he comes back through all that smoke, he loses his voice and he loses all his colors. So that's how he becomes a black crow. But he does that in service of others so that they may live.
Isn't that awesome?
It
See,
was
that one's a good one. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Rainbow
I've never
Crow.
even heard of that one.
I have. I'll make sure when we're done, I have a copy at home. I'll at least send you a picture of it.
Oh yes,
But
please
for
do.
me, it's how do we give our kids these lessons? And a lot of times they're not going to listen to
No,
us
especially when they get a certain
clearly,
age.
right? But if we can share that with the book, or if they can hear it from somebody else, they're more likely to take it. Correct?
Yes, but it's like I tell all the new mommies that have little girls that are 13, 14, and they go, oh, it's just to stay in a room. And I said, it's a phase. They go through all that, and they're trying to figure themselves out. I said, just be there and listen to them, and be there and just kind of walk them through that journey. I said, because we all went through that, some more than others, but it's just a part of it. I said, she didn't do nothing wrong. She's okay.
Right. Just be there and listen. I think it gets hard, right? I think it gets hard not to
It's hard when they get
tell
older.
them,
I know.
like, hey, this is what you're doing wrong.
Yes. But to tell them there's consequences to it. And I think I said that 50,000 times plus to my kids. And I said, okay, but just remember there's always consequences to everything. And sometimes those consequences cannot be erased. So my son said, I still hear you right here.
Yeah, it's amazing you say that, because we just went through something like this with my daughter. She's 13. That's my oldest. And they're always trying to get away with more that they can wear at school.
Yeah,
right.
of
And
course.
finally she got a dress code violation. And I said, well, that's the consequences. I mean, I'm not going to bring you clothes. You're going to have to wear whatever it is they
Yeah.
give you. And she did. And I said, well, you
And
know what's
that
going
is
to
how
happen
she'll
next time.
learn.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not going to check your clothes every single day. You're old enough to do that. Right. I'm not going to make sure you get to the bus on time every day. You're old enough to do that.
But see, you're teaching her stuff, even though she's kind of rebelling at the moment, because of that little bit. That's how you're going to teach them. If you do everything for them, and if you run to them every time they get in trouble to try to save them, they're not going to learn to save themselves. They're not. Or to do right, do what's right. She knew the rules.
I believe too, the concept of being a parachute for them, or the safety net. Like, if something happens, I don't want to be a parachute where I'm following them the whole way down. Is it going to be okay? It's going to be okay. I want to be that place where if they're falling, at the end of the day, they know I'll catch them. And so I try to keep that in my mind.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you?
It
Do you have anything like that kind of guides you?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. But yes, that totally makes sense. you know?
Yeah. Um, I love the subject of kids. I think there's so much that value that we get that they kind of carry over between running a business, being a leader, being involved, that
Yes.
comes across of just being a good parent. Do you have any like staples that come across as that, or any like principles that you see as a crossover between being a parent and being a good
There's
business
so
owner?
much of that that can be, but remember that children, I always say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And that is something that is very, it really stands out because it's like I tell my kids, when I look, now that I look at my kids, I look at them and they grow up to be good kids, thank God. But I always go and I go, gosh, and we went through this period where sometimes, they just thought they knew everything. And being there for them over and over, I cannot say that enough. And as far as principles, I always tell them, just do everything with good ethics. And I said, is it the truth? I said, is it
Mm,
good for everybody? It's basically
right. That's
the
Rotarian,
Rotarian.
right?
And if you hear that, and that's why I became a Rotarian. That was my why of why I became to a Rotarian. I said, oh my God, I say a lot of this. Maybe not in the exact words, but those are principles that you can just cross over values.
Right.
Other
So,
values.
so you're what I hear you saying too is it's very important to align yourself with organizations and companies that are aligned with your own values.
Yes, to me. And you have to be passionate about it. Don't just go sit on a board to sit on it. You have to be passionate about it. Like the neighborhood centers to me, oh my gosh, they give, they help people every day. People who don't have food may need just a little bit of help with their electricity for that month for whatever reason, the older people and the senior citizens and stuff, and I just think, gosh, and that was why I joined that board. And I don't, I'm still in school. I'm finishing up my master's. And people don't understand, why, as old as you're. And I said, why? I don't need a why. I'm the why
Mm,
because I choose to do it. This is something, it's on my bucket list, okay? But that's why I like the adult education center. It's because it's about education people that didn't do it when at a certain age.
right. I
Mhm.
mean, at what point do we stop learning? Don't we always start
I
keep
don't believe
growing?
that. I think there's not a time limit to stop. You have to do it yourself if you really want to do it. And it doesn't matter how old you are or anything, or if you're going to put it in use. To me, it's my brain is getting fulfilled.
Right. Go ahead. We'll take a
My
pause.
brain. Sorry, guys.
I talk about that a lot. For me, I think there's always something that we can get better at. And then it's also expanding and pushes your own limits, right? So
Correct. And
doing
I
things that
always,
you didn't know you could.
I know. And it's funny because people go, oh, do you want to go watch this movie, a scary movie or whatever? I go, no, look, no, no. My brain has files and there's not a file for that. Because to me, that's a waste of my time. I want to fill my brain and enrich my brain with things that I'm going to use.
Mm,
And whether it be a good book, and right now I'm doing a lot of excessive reading, with my human resource. Um, so to me, I want to fill my brains with things that are good, not with the negative, if that makes sense.
it
A lot of
does.
people, a scary movie and all this bad stuff on TV, and sometimes I don't even want to watch the news because you turn it on, that's a bad way to start your day. It's somebody died or something happened or whatever. I'd rather not. I just get up, I meditate, and I pray, and then I'm ready to go
Hmm.
and hit the streets.
Now, is there a difference between meditating and praying?
No, it's kind of like the same, except when you meditate, my brain kind of rests. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
just don't have to really think about anything and try to focus on just like I don't focus on my day or anything. I just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to just relax in my brain
Hmm.
and kind of clear it from being overly stimulated. It just works for me, and it's really quiet. And it may take me 10 minutes, 5 minutes, it's whatever time I have in the morning, but then I wake up. The first thing I do though is pray
Mm,
automatically, whether I'm laying in my bed, and saying, oh, thank you, Lord, for waking me up another day, or thank you for letting me take a breath today when someone didn't take theirs,
hmm.
took their last, things like that. Just personal. I like it.
No, that's good. I think it's one of the things that we talk about here too. It's being able to recognize your own mental health, your physical health,
Yes.
and we talked about finances a little bit
Hmm.
too. Just to kind of realign yourself to know that um, one of my sisters, we talk about it. They hit. It's like, how do we? People ask me, do I stop? Do I ever stop? And it's like I do. It's when I have time that's for me, and it's no, I don't really publicize it anymore. Really, it's in the mornings, and it's my time, and that's when I
That's my
have
me
my
time.
time, right? But I want to say we're pretty similar. I actually get a lot of energy from people.
I do
So when I'm
too.
interacting with somebody or I'm at an event, I get a lot of energy from that, and
I
so that
do.
keeps me going. It really does feed me.
That's funny because somebody said, don't you ever stop? And I go, no, because every time you meet people and anytime you get into a conversation with a person, they're also feeding you. So
Mm,
you're listening and you're re-energizing. You go, oh, I might be able to do that, you know? So, and I do, like, I do stop, like I said, early morning meditation. And if people want to call it their time to pray or whatever, it's fine. I just distinguish mine separate only because it's just quiet and there's no TV,
mm,
there's no phone, the dog's asleep, the cat, you know what I mean? It's
right.
nice and quiet, and there's nothing except maybe the whatever's going on outside.
Right. So your meditation is more quiet for you, focusing on that moment. And when you
Mhm.
pray, it's a more of a discussion between you
It's
and God.
me and him.
Got it. I love that. I
Mhm.
love that. Well, I do want to be mindful of your time and say thank you for being here. Do you have any like calls to actions for anybody else, or you have any calls for the community to say, hey, this is where I need help, or come visit me here at your location?
I know times are tough, and I know that everybody's trying to hold on to their money and everything. Totally, totally understand that. But there's always a need at the Pearland neighborhood centers. There's if someone in a nonprofit organization is putting on an event for any reason, even if it's $10, and it doesn't even have to be through an event. Share something, even if it's food from your pantry that you're not going to be eating. Take it to the pantry because it'll feed someone else.
Hmm. So finding your way through service, I think that's very powerful too. We talk about that on our other podcast, Charlie Mike, how a lot of times when you find yourself in service is when you find your next mission.
Yeah.
Um, So thank you for being here. My final question, right before I get into that, I just want to really acknowledge you for who the person you are, for showing up every day. I know every time Raul and I come around, if we see you, there's always smiles on our faces too. And we always leave Miss Norma's Cafe fulfilled, not just in spirit, not just in our body, but in our spirit too.
Aw.
And so my final question is, so if you were to give three final lessons from your life, what kind of lessons would you like for everyone to hear?
One, slow down.
Mm,
Two, everything your parents have told you, go back and review them because as an adult now you understand it. You didn't understand it as a 15 and 16-year-old. So it's there.
mhm,
Just got to dig it out. And three, spend time with God.
mm.
Give him five.
I love that. I think that's very important too.
Mhm.
Um, so, again, thank you for being here. I want to thank you again, Miss Norma, for being our guest today. As always, make sure you share, you subscribe, you leave us a review. Let us know how we can continue to serve you, and make sure you go by and see Miss Norma's Cafe. Without further ado, I love you guys.
Thank you.